Well, welcome to Coffee and Conversations. Pull up a chair with us, pour some coffee, and join our conversation. My name is Jason Goodson. I'm here with Johnny Taylor and John Cordova. We're deep in the dungeon, downtown Mineola, Texas. It's good to be back with this. Is our 10th podcast, guys.
Oh, yeah.
Big
number 10, baby.
When I turned 10, I got punched in the face.
We're
My
at
10th birthday.
we're at to skip number 24 though.
Oh, man.
Man. Oh, that's right. We'll have to have a special moment for
It
that.
was a very, very special moment. That'd be awesome.
Well, speaking of 24, John just got back from a trip with our good friend Larry McClendon. Let's hear about some of the highlights, and I know you got some 24 moments in there, so let's hear what you have to say.
Yeah. Well, I still feel like I'm recovering from the trip. It was very fun. Had a really good time. Long plane flight, all that stuff. And I've got just a good 2 pages of accidents and random stuff that's happened on day one. A bunch of audio, video stuff I'm slowly putting together and hopefully have that up, here in a couple weeks. But, I don't know, man, it was a great time. We did a lot, saw a lot, and Larry ended up getting sick,
Right.
kind of during the middle of it. But all that was fine, too. We had a good time with him being sick and me, being his first aid and going back and forth, getting tons of Pepto-Bismol and Tylenol and Coke and
Lysol.
crackers and Lysol and all that stuff. But
When you told me you sprayed his feet,
I sprayed
that's
his
so
feet down. Every time I walked past him, I sprayed for a good, every 20 minutes I would spray the room because I did not want to get what he had, And so every time I walked past his feet, I just spray his feet real good, and he'd go, "Oh, it tickles." My feet's gonna be the cleanest feet ever. But yeah, no, I mean, there's a bunch of stuff happened, but
see, you got a new Beatles hat.
I do, man. We saw Beatles little, section in Books A Million Borders, and got me this Beatles hat, and got me a Beatles mug, Abbey Road cover. Larry had an extra Woodstock coaster and a orange peace sign mug. Like it's engraved with a bunch of peace signs. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, kind of a little 24 moment over the trip. Several of them, but a few of those. We were in Alabama, and Larry just said, "Hey, whatever next exit comes up that has a good gas station, go ahead and pull on over, and I need to put my eyes in." And so next exit that came up just so happened to be exit number 24. And it not only did it say that, but it said Dallas, exit 24. And it said hospital, exit 24. Police station, exit 24. And all these 24 stuff was coming up.
Wow.
So we were laughing at, and walking to the gas station, the first thing we see is a big banner. It says Jeff Gordon. 24 all
No, it
over
did not.
Yeah.
Sweet.
And
You were in Alabama.
yeah.
That's right.
So we leave there, and anyways, we're coming back from Atlanta to Mississippi, and he wants to take this exit to show me where he went to grad school at. And he told me the name of the exit, and there were actually 2 exits. And we took the first one, and it was exit 26. And I said, "Oh man, it'd been funnier if it was exit 24, He goes, "Yeah," and so, but he realized that it was the wrong exit, and so we get back on the interstate, and the next exit was 24, with a mile marker 24, not too far behind it. And so I'm at the airport in Atlanta, and my last departure gate was B24. I thought it was pretty funny. And then there was a guy that was about 10 feet behind me with everyone else. We're on the line getting on the plane, and he's wearing Marion Barber's
The Barbarian.
what you call it?
Jersey.
Had 24 on it. And so at this point, I'm finding this pretty humorous. And so So I just say, okay, God, I know that you don't have to impress me at all. I don't need to be impressed, and I know you can do whatever you want to. And I say, but I would be pretty impressed if that guy actually sat near me on the plane. And this is a big plane. And just kind of left it at that. I get on the plane, I take my seat. Everyone's loading on the plane, and the guy with the 24 jersey comes in, and he sits directly in front of me. So I see 24 the whole way from Atlanta to Dallas, 2-hour flight. And I was sitting in. This is kind of an off of 24 moment, but I just thought this was pretty cool, anyways. But my seat number was B14, and when I got back to my truck, the parking lot that I parked my truck at the airport was B14.
Really?
It's pretty strange.
I remember, yeah.
Yeah.
So you're in and out?
It was ironic, yeah. It was a great flight back, but we had a good time. It was a fun trip, man. So I got a lot of pictures, and
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing the final product of what you've put together.
Oh, yeah. It's
going to be interesting.
It's very funny. So it's good to be back.
Good to have you back as well, Johnny Taylor. Look, Johnny has been working out in the rain for the last few days, and
For those who don't know, I read water meters to pay the bills.
and JT has.
Did you find the water boots and stuff, whatever you're looking for?
No. Well, I found the rain suit, but I wore a hole in it within an hour of wearing it, so I gave up on that.
I'll just say this, and my brother runs the company that he works for, but you get in and out of the car a lot, you're outside a lot, and they don't stop because of rain. Now lightning is a different story, but rain, you keep reading, and so JT, I'll let you take it from there.
Well, anyways, we've had plenty of rain this past week. I think Friday I got about as miserable as I'd been in a while because I didn't sleep well, had about 2.5 hours of sleep, and then we got to work Friday morning, and it's raining, and so we get out, and they tell me that the rain is going away. It's about ended, so I don't put on rain pants. I just put on my rain coat, and I'm like, a little damp ain't going to hurt. It's about to end. Well, 3.5 hours later, it's raining hard still. I'm soaking wet. Rain's been running down the back of my neck into my raincoat, and rain has finally fallen hard enough that it's not just getting my blue jeans wet, but it's running down my legs on the inside of my blue jeans,
Oh gosh,
which means it's running into my boots now.
very thing you were trying to prevent.
Exactly, which I could have prevented had I known the rain was going to continue. But my power was out when I got up that morning, so I couldn't go look at the weather to see what it was going to do.
He
So I had to take somebody else's
calls
word.
me.
I called Jason to find
I was
out.
like, I don't know, man. It took me like 30 minutes to find the weather for you.
On your phone? You were trying to look on your phone?
It's horrible.
So anyway, Saturday kind of got a little damp. It was cold. My ears froze. Because there was this mist falling.
The visual just got.
Yeah.
It's like I'm wearing this
All
cap.
this,
and the
all
mist
this
is
frost
falling,
started
and
happening.
My ears are catching the wind, and they're freezing, and the rest of me's hot. So I'm like, this is not good.
Jack Frost dipping
Yeah.
at your-
Icicles hanging out.
So it felt like it. So that was Saturday, but that wasn't as bad as Friday. And we didn't work yesterday, or we didn't work Sunday, and then we worked yesterday, and it once again rained on and off. Wore a rain suit part of the time. Blue jean legs ended up. I finally gave up on the rain suit. Blue jean legs got wet just from kneeling down on the ground, which you do 300-400 times a day.
Yeah.
So, anyway, so just 3 fairly miserable work days, and had to go back this morning. Had about 4 sheets of meters to read, and it's 100% chance of thunderstorms prediction. And we have to finish today, so they ain't no. Well, we'll wait till tomorrow and do this. So I go out, and it rains on me on the way to Tyler. Get there, get the stuff, start out, and it's raining. And I get out there, and it's kind of quit, so I get out and read a meter or two, get back in. It starts raining, so I'm like, well, I'm going to put on my rain stuff. Or I was willing to get partially wet today because I didn't have but 4 pages to read. And so I put on my raincoat and went to get out of the car. And by about the time I got out of the car, I'd say, "God, it'd be great if you could hold this rain off today because these last 3 days have just been rough." And got out of the car, and it quit raining after I got out of the car. So I kept on, like, it's going to start back up. So kept on wearing my raincoat, and it didn't start back up, so I took it off because it was hot. And funny thing, it's funny because sometimes, other days I've asked God to hold the rain off, and we've gotten wet. So,
Right.
but then today, the funny thing was that He made sure He did it in a way. What He did was in a way that there was no doubt. This is God doing this. This ain't coincidence. It ain't accident. So I got to noticing. I would get back in my car to drive to the next spot, and it'd start raining. I'd get there, step out of my car, and it'd quit. And for 3.5 hours,
The rain whisperer.
for 3.5 hours this morning, I'd get in and out of my car. I don't know how many times. Sometimes it didn't start raining when I got in the car, but many times the big old drops would start hitting the windshield, and I'd be driving somewhere, and I'd get there, and it'd quit as I got out of the car. Didn't wear my raincoat for the next 3.5 hours. It got so dark one time, I thought it's fixing a storm because you couldn't even hardly see. There's fog. And they had to be some kind of heavy cloud because it was just dark out there. That went on all morning. Never got wet.
Wow.
Read my 4 pages of meters. Popped lightning beside me one time.
Wow.
I thought I was going to have to quit. But anyway, went ahead and got everything done. Never rained hard on me. Got back to the water office, got my paperwork in, walked back out, and it was pouring down.
This wasn't today, was it?
Yeah, it was today.
That's funny because at Starbucks it was raining pretty much the whole day,
I know.
the whole morning.
It was raining all around, all over the place.
That's strange.
But everywhere I went, I had to drive all over the place today because all my stuff was scattered out. So I ended up in the car driving 3, 4, 5 minutes at a time. And every time it'd rain while I was in the car. I'd get out to read meters and it'd quit. So it's kind of like, God, let me just sign my name to this.
All right. That's kind of cool.
It's neat.
I had a Facebook quote I wanted to share with you. It's maybe a joke, but I thought it was funny. The Invisible Man and the Invisible Woman got married, and their children were nothing to look at.
Where did you read that at?
Oh, my goodness.
Is that someone's status or
That was his status. Yes.
really?
I thought
At
it
least
was
they
really
had transparent lives.
Interesting.
And weren't afraid to look in the mirror.
That's true.
that was. I just thought that was the funniest thing. Like that's the only joke I'll ever be able to tell, and people will laugh at because I'm terrible at telling jokes.
Yeah,
That one I think I can tell pretty good.
and you'll laugh every single time.
I will
Yeah.
because it's funny.
And then it'll get to the point where you can't even spit it out. You'll
You
start
just
laughing.
laugh beforehand.
Yeah,
Well, that's what I do with everything.
yeah.
I usually laugh before. I laughed pretty hard at that though. So,
Oh, yeah.
anyways, speaking of random
Today's topic is random thoughts.
random,
We
thoughts.
didn't have a topic in advance that we had thought of.
I would say John's randomness on that trip was pretty random. Like
Just
the whole thing.
The stuff that happened is just
Anything you do with Larry is random.
it really was, and it kind of started off with him. We go through the checklist of stuff before we leave of the most important stuff,
Make sure you bring.
and number one is his contacts,
right.
because he cannot see without his contacts, and we get
He can't see with his contact.
that's true too. We get in Alabama, and the first stop we stop at to get some coffee, and he's going to put in his right contact in, and he forgets his contacts.
Right.
He forgot them. He says he's never done that on any trip, going anywhere. And I'm like, well, do you have a backup? And fortunately he did. He had backup contact case in his trunk. And we get to a Starbucks out in Oxford, and get our coffee and go back outside. And in the McDonald's playground place across the road, there's this little boy with his pants down peeing on the ground with a little girl watching him. And we're like, it's just so weird. I mean, what a funny
Random
time for us to
happenings.
see this. And the mom comes out, like, you see her, because we're in the car, we can't hear anything, and you see her with her hands up in the air waving, like, oh no, my gosh, She picks up her kid and, extends her arms out,
motion.
So you see this pee stream going back and forth like a windshield wiper. And so she takes off his shoes and cleans them up, and we drive off, and Larry goes, "Oh no!" I'm like, "Oh what?" And he goes, "My glasses were on top of the car." So his glasses were 20 feet back in the parking lot, and it was just
Well, the fact that
so funny.
the man wearing the 24 jersey randomly sits
At-
in front of you randomly, but you had talked to God about it,
Yeah.
and it happened.
Yeah, and I really wasn't expecting anything,
Sure.
But it's stuff like that. It cannot be coincidental. The gate and the guy and him sitting right in front of me.
I think
It's just
I
all,
think God
and
I think God smiles and says, "Okay,
well, and
It's
that's
just-
what I take away from it is God has a sense of humor.
right, absolutely."
That's all I take away from it. And another thing that happened was we were driving downtown Atlanta with all this traffic, and this taxi cab pulls right out in front of us, and the number on the back of the taxi cab was 0024. And what was funny about that is the night before we had watched Goldfinger.
James Bond.
And we were talking about all this
Double
stuff.
O.
And so I said, well, my Bond name is 0024. It was just funny.
Well, JT, share it with us. The question of the day.
Well, the question of the day is, if you decide to think about your random thoughts, are they still random?
That is random.
So
That's a random question.
this may be these may be random thoughts, and they may not be, depending on the answer to that question.
Right. Well, speaking of random thoughts, what's your random thought of the day?
Oh, just today I was thinking on, and maybe it's yesterday a little bit. Something that keeps striking me is, I'm not even sure how to put it, but it's, God gives you these moments in your life of it seems to be a choice, and I guess one of the verses that draws this out is Luke 17:33. It says, "Whoever seeks to save his life will lose it, and whoever loses his life will preserve it." And in Jeremiah 2:13 it says, "For my people have committed two evils. They have forsaken me, the fountain of living waters, and hewn them out cisterns, broken cisterns that can hold no water." And just the thought of how we trade away what really is life for what's just a passing, what we think is going to meet our needs and what we think is going to feel good, and there's lots of things we do that just have a hold on us,
Right.
and we fail at them and stuff. But I'm talking about those moments when we're very obvious choices and stuff, and just, and I guess the thought that I had was, God has made some promises that aren't in the form of promises, but they're just as sure. And one of those is if we dig out wells for ourselves, they're not going to hold water.
Right.
And if we try to save what we think is life, then we're going to lose what really is life. And,
Right. Wow.
it's not a real encouraging thing, but something we probably should think on from time to time.
Interesting. I wonder. As I'm thinking about it, just in the making of our own pits that we seem to build for ourselves is that we were talking about the presence of God in our last
Yeah.
podcast, I think the fact that we rely on self so much causes, the emptiness on the
Yeah.
inside,
Oh, yeah.
and just it holds, it really didn't hold any water to us being dependent, us being totally relying upon Christ for everything in our life,
Yeah.
and being able to trust in what He's going to do.
Yeah. And a lot of times when what's truly life doesn't look good most
Right.
of the time. I was just thinking about the children of Israel. The wilderness didn't look like life to them,
Right.
but it was part of what life was supposed to be for them.
Right.
And it was about a relationship with God. It wasn't about their circumstances or having the kind of food they wanted to eat or all those things.
Yeah.
And so they got to looking at what they could see,
And it wasn't pleasing.
and it wasn't pleasing,
Right.
and they didn't recognize, but it's life. It's actual life. And if we keep walking this way, we will be fulfilled.
Right.
So,
Interesting. Very good. I have it's totally way off the subject, but it's a random thought. I very rarely do I dream. I dream, I guess, every night,
don't remember.
but I don't remember. Like, very rarely do I ever remember the things that I dream about. And some scripture I'll just read. Been teaching a lot in Philippians with our students, and we're getting up to this certain point in the book, but we haven't began to teach there yet. But Philippians 2:9-11 says, "Therefore God has highly exalted him and given him the name which is above every name, that at the name of Jesus that every knee should bow, of those in heaven and of those on earth and of those under the earth, that every tongue should confess that Jesus Christ is Lord, to the glory of the Father." Now, in the Old Testament, there is a story about Joseph who has a dream, and he just called me on the phone.
Sorry.
text message you.
Random. Scared me.
He didn't
like-
Twitter you, though.
He did.
That's funny.
Well, anyways, Joseph has a dream, right? He has a couple of dreams right up front as a young man, and the dream goes like this. Now Joseph had a dream, and he told it to his brothers, and they hated him even more. So he said to them, "Please hear the dream which I have dreamed. There we were, binding sheaves in the field, and then behold, my sheaf arose, and also stood upright. And indeed, your sheaves stood all around, and bowed down to my sheaf." And he has another dream, talks about the sun and the moon and the 11 stars also bowing. Nobody's happy about this dreams that he's having and everything. And I thought the randomness of what it says in Philippians 2:9, because it's just a picture of that and what's going to happen. That at the name of Jesus, that every knee should bow, of those in heaven, of those on earth, and those under the earth, that every tongue should confess that Jesus Christ is Lord, to the glory of God the Father. And my dream has nothing to do with bowing, so to speak, but it's like I've been talking about the random things that God's been showing up. I was like, God may be doing something with the school and everything. Well, in this dream, it's like I'm even sleeping in the dream, and like growing up as a teenager, I had these awful zits all over me. It was horrible. Sometimes people get them real bad. Well, I was one of those kids that had them real bad, and every time I'm sitting here sleeping and I'm popping a zit in the dream, okay, and it's like it's not just zit stuff coming out.
Oh my gosh.
But what happens is it's just so random. It starts out as that, and then all of a sudden, like, bits of broken things were coming out. And then every time I went to go and it's like this weird random things in my life that's happened over the years, and it's like this puzzle that's trying to come together. You know,
Is this a recent dream?
like 3 nights ago.
This is like a continuous dream?
No, it happened just once.
Hmm.
Just once. But nothing. But it was like everything was coming to form and being put into place. But it was like pieces of my life from the past and somewhat things I didn't recognize, like it was the future. So I don't know if that was just a random things from God, but I've been teaching heavily about these dreams to students. Stories of the Old Testament and the picture of God in the New Testament, and how it shows up, how the two coincide with one another and creates this puzzle that works together and unites all things into one. And but man, it was like some emotional parts of that was that I remember breaking this piece of glass that had a father and a son in it, and it had fishing poles or whatever, but it had this it was like etched into a mirror thing, and it was kind of broke, but you could see it in there, and that was one of them. But I remember breaking it and how I broke it and stuff like that when I was a kid. But it was like deja vu. It was like I was sitting there looking at it again, even in the dream. And then, I had the presence of God showing up in the classroom last week. I just showed up and it was there, bam, and just things like that, and looking forward, and just wondering why God has shut doors in certain areas and opened doors in other areas, and why He puts us through the junk that we go through sometimes, and just I'm seeing how this whole picture is starting to come together, I guess, and so that's my random thought of the day. Left field, I know, but kind of
Interesting.
it is interesting because what I'm seeing is we're losing this building that we're in, but it's not I'm not a bit like sad over it.
It's not a bad
It's
thing.
not a bad thing. There's times about 3 months ago I'd have looked at it as a horrible thing because life happens here, right? But there's things that are starting to, it feels like they're welding together, and that's what's interesting, it's because I don't know what they look like though. I don't know what the finished product looks like, and if I tried to figure it out, it would be me. It'd be like me digging my own pit, and it wouldn't hold no water. It's like God showing up in randomness of even 24. Seriously,
Well, I had a dream a couple of nights ago that I was speaking at this retreat that you had set up, and JT, you were there. You were running sound, and one of y'all introduced me to come up to the stage, and then when I got up there, it was supposed to have been to a couple hundred students, but only 20 people were there, and everyone else was outside playing, and so it was like they purposely skipped just to go outside and play frisbee and stuff. And so I was like, well. So I began to talk, and then JT, you interrupted me in the middle of it and told me to fix the lights because they were off or something like that. So I had to stop what I was saying and go and fix the lights. And then it just ended up being a big flop. And so the second time I came up, I began to talk, but I had tonsillitis. And so the only thing that you could hear was, and I couldn't say what I was wanting to say, and all this drool and stuff was coming out of my mouth. So I was just drooling in front of everyone, and everyone begins to laugh at me. It was really horrible.
wow,
You even laughed at me too.
I'm so sorry.
I was mad at you in my dream.
Were you really?
Mhm.
Man, I'm
But
sorry.
I realized it was a dream. and I
My
was
high
fine.
feeler just says I'm sorry all over the place.
Yeah, okay.
Because I don't want you to be mad at me, even in dreams.
Yeah, I wasn't mad at you. I mean, afterwards.
Right.
We seem to have taken a course of talking about gross things today for some
I
reason.
don't know. It is kind of weird, and but it's just the way. It seemed like I experienced a lot of rigid pain through those times, and it seems like sometimes in those things that were like pulling out of my brain and putting together. I don't know. It seemed random, but at the same time, I believe that God is up to something really strange around here, and I'm not sure what's going to happen or how it's going to look like. What the results are and how it's going to involve what we're doing here in Mineola, but I'm pretty fired up about it. I'll say that.
Oh, yeah.
Well, something I was thinking about with all that was there's always purpose behind, junk and circumstances that doesn't work out, the way we think it should. What's on my mind about all that was with Larry getting sick in the middle of the week. Definitely didn't want that to happen at all. Him more so than me. And yet, if he didn't get sick, we wouldn't have met the owner of his mansion, that he was in. There's a lot of stuff that kind of came together with the result of him being sick, and and something that we just kept coming back to is, okay, God is in the very midst of the stuff that we hate, and don't like, and
Right.
and it's all God, the good and the bad. That's a big thing to chew on.
Well, if you are, if you have a random thought that you'd like to share with us about God or anything that is coming to your mind through the conversation we've had today with you, and please share with us. You can log on to Facebook and go to Talea Ridge Ministries, the group, and or you can just leave a message to us through our individual Facebooks with Johnny Taylor and John Cordova and Jason Goodson here. And we'd like to hear from you. Keep sending your comments. We're glad that you're listening, and I'm praying that that God is showing up and just hopefully encouraging you and maybe causing you to think a little bit as well, and about your personal relationship with Christ, and just how he's moving in us, and how we're learning as well is a big process, and sometimes hearing these things can fuel thought. Even it helps us to fuel thoughts for further conversations that we have here, and continue to pray for us. We're looking forward to seeing what God is doing here in Mineola. Y'all have a good day.